Yo, what's up guys? What is going on everybody over on the Simply Viral channel? Welcome back to another video. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Today we are jumping back into the world of Fortnite Battle Royale to take a look at the Season 6 Week 8 challenges. Of course, every week they do leak early and we're able to bring them here to you guys a little bit ahead of time. That way, when they actually do release in-game, you guys can already know exactly what you have to do and you guys can jump right in without any delay. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the Season 6 Week 8 challenges. Just like every other week, there are 3 free challenges and 4 battle pass challenges, and if you actually complete 4 out of the 7 challenges here in week 8, you will be rewarded with 8,000 XP. So for those of you guys trying to level up, make sure you go ahead and grind out some of these challenges. Our very first challenge this week is going to be a staged challenge. Unfortunately, when the challenges do leak, we can't actually see the future stages. We only get the original stage, but most of the time we can get a pretty good idea of what the future stages will be like. So stage 1 this week is going to be visit Lonely Lodge and Retail Row in a single match. So obviously this is just visiting 2 very close in proximity locations. So stage 2 will probably be something like visit Lucky Landing and Fatal Fields in the single match. So of course, when you do complete stage 1, you're not actually able to complete stage 2 in the same match. So after you complete stage 1, make sure you go back and go into your menu and go into your challenges and actually make sure you know exactly what stage 2 is going to be. Our second challenge this week is going to be dance with a fish trophy at different named locations. Now, I'm not 100% sure what this fish trophy thing means. I would take it it's referring to the different like fish mounts that are at like the Bass Pro Shop locations around the map. Of course, we got the one in Retail Row. We used to have the one in Tilted Towers before, you know, Kevin the Cube went out and smashed it. But we do have quite a few of these different shops located throughout the map. I don't know if there's 7 of them, but according to this challenge, there must be. If that's not it, I'm not exactly sure what the fish trophy actually is, but I have a hunch that that is what this challenge will consist of. If you guys do need help finding the locations of these fish trophies so you can dance with them, then make sure you, like on the day of release and when these challenges actually come out, you just go to YouTube or Google. I guarantee you guys there will be 10-15 people releasing different guides so you guys can actually figure out the locations of all of these buildings. Our next and final free challenge of the week is going to also be our first hard challenge. So this one will actually reward you with either 10 battle stars or 1,000 XP, and it's going to be 6 shooter or heavy assault rifle eliminations. Now this is dubbed as a hard challenge like I just said, but really the 6 shooter is a pretty good gun. That's of course the new revolver. It's a pretty decent gun and it spawns in pretty frequently, and of course the heavy assault rifle, it spawns in a blue and a purple rarity, so it's not too difficult to find either. Both of these weapons are actually pretty common drops, and honestly both of these weapons are pretty good. They're really strong, especially like the 6 shooter. For a pistol, you can basically spray it. The fire rate on this is actually pretty fast if you're just spamming the shoot button, whether it's your mouse or your trigger on controller. And honestly, it's a pretty good pistol, like I said, especially if you get this early game where people don't have a ton of shield or maybe even a ton of weapons to fight back with. The 6 shooter is a pretty solid pistol and it's a frequent drop like I mentioned, so that shouldn't be too hard to find or get kills with. And then of course the heavy assault rifle is just an absolute beast. Even though it does spawn in like a blue rarity, it's still a super strong gun. I think it hits like 40 something to the body and 90 something to the head. So if your aim is on point and you can actually hit your shots, the heavy AR is a super efficient gun for eliminating people, and you only have to get 2 eliminations for this challenge. So 2 kills between the 6 shooter or the heavy AR, that's really not too difficult of a challenge whatsoever. Then we move on to our 4 battle pass challenges. The first one is going to be get a score of 3 on different clay pigeon shooters. Of course, we've seen these little clay pigeon shooter stations around the map for quite some time now. We've actually seen a challenge pretty similar to the past. I think it was like shoot a rubber ducky at like 4 different clay pigeon shooter stations or something like that. Now you just have to get a score of 3. So presumably shoot 3 clay pigeons or rubber duckies that are getting shot out of the actual shooters at these locations. Once again, if you guys do need help finding these locations, then just make sure on the day of when the challenge is actually released this Thursday, you just go onto YouTube or onto Twitter or Reddit or whatever and just search up a guide, and I'm sure somebody will post all the different locations for these clay pigeon shooters. If they're the same stations that we've had in the past, we actually do know a few of these locations. There used to be one right on top of Loot Lake by one of the chest spawns. There was one pretty close to Greasy Grove. There's one actually up by the giant chair as well. So there are quite a few of these locations that have been on the map. I'm not sure if they'll get reused or not. We'll just have to wait and see. Our next challenge here, the 5th challenge for week 8 of season 6, is get trick points in a vehicle. For this one, you are going to have to get 250,000 trick points, which might seem like a lot, but really is not too difficult. difficult if you're able to do it right. The vehicles in this game, of course, you can use the quad crasher, the ATK, or the shopping cart, and all of those are quite able to get some score pretty easy. Of course, if you're just going down little ramps or ledges, you're gonna get probably like in between 17 and like 30,000 score, depending on exactly what you do. If you can do some little spins and whatnot, or you know, if you want to go just straight for the shopping cart, land on top of the massive shopping cart mountain that has all sorts of ramps and jumps you can go off of down that'll get you quite a few score. But honestly, I think the easiest way to get like the most score out of this is find a vehicle and maybe try and find a shockwave grenade, and then either have one of your friends hit you with it or try and hit yourself with the shockwave grenade, because your vehicle will go flying. You're gonna do all sorts of flips and spins. This is a little bit harder to land. You do have to get kind of lucky with that, but if you do, you're gonna get an insane amount of trick points. So this challenge, it really shouldn't be too difficult to complete at all. Then we move on to challenge number 6 here. This is visit different named locations in a single match. For this one, you're going to have to visit 4 named locations, which isn't too bad. Of course, you're just going to have to take a specific route and just go from one named location to the next and hopefully not die. This will probably be easiest in a 50 versus 50 mode, since you'll have half the side of the map to yourself and you won't have to worry about getting shot at. And then our final challenge this week is yet another stage challenge. So same deal as before. Unfortunately, we're not able to see the future stages, but this one is labeled as a hard challenge, so we'll have to see how difficult this challenge and these stages truly are. But we do know what stage 1 is. We're not actually sure how many stages there are to this, but stage 1 is use a grappling hook, so that probably won't be too difficult to actually complete. I would assume stage 2 would be something like use balloons or use a certain amount of balloons or something like that, so on and so forth. So there you guys have it. Those are the season 6 week 8 challenges. Now, just like every other week, we do like to give you guys the rundown of exactly what the challenges are, but we also like to give you the best tips and tricks to complete these challenges as fast and as quickly as possible. For those of you guys wondering, you can technically unlock the hunting party skin, the aim skin, from completing the week 8 challenges. If you don't have some of your other weekly challenges complete yet, you don't just have to unlock it off of the first 7 weeks. You can do any individual 7 weeks all completed, and this week doesn't really seem too bad. So for visiting Lonely Lodge or retail in a single match, once again, like same deal with the visit different named locations. I really think the easiest way to do this is to jump into a 50 versus 50 mode and hope that you get the side of the map that actually has these locations on it. Of course, stage 2 is probably going to be something like visit Junk Junction and Pleasant Park in the same match, or Lucky Landing and Flush Factory, other locations that are pretty close together. But really, you just have to hope that your side of the battle bus in like a 50 versus 50 mode just goes onto that side of the map. Dancing with a fish trophy at different name locations, as I mentioned earlier, on the day of, I would just look up on YouTube or Reddit or Google or wherever just a quick guide for this, because people will have different maps plotted out with all of the different locations for this, so it really shouldn't be too hard to complete as well. For the 6-shooter or heavy assault rifle eliminations, as I explained when I announced this challenge, I really don't think this is going to be too hard of a challenge, even though it is labeled as a hard challenge, because the 6-shooter and the heavy ARs are both pretty frequent spawns and they're pretty strong weapons. So as long as your aim is on point, 2 eliminations for this probably won't be too difficult. Getting a score of 3 on a different clay pigeon shooters, once again, I don't think this is going to be too hard of a challenge. You really just have to rely on the fact that there aren't other enemies or even teammates in the same area trying to mess you up. If that's the case, you're just going to need to be in a different lobby that won't be too difficult to try and actually get out of. You do have to do this 3 times, so you have to get a score of 3 on a different clay pigeon shooters 3 times in total. So you'll need to get 9 score in the broad scheme of things, but only 3 at a time. So really, this should be a pretty easy challenge, especially if you go into a mode like 50 versus 50, where you don't necessarily have to worry about people shooting at you and trying to kill you as much. Getting trick points in a vehicle for 250,000 trick points, I don't think is going to be a very hard challenge at all. As I mentioned earlier, you can go to tons of different places on the map that actually spawn, in elevated areas. For instance, the shopping cart mountain, you can drive down that and get a ton of trick points from going off the ramps using some sort of shockwave grenade, or even balloons now can probably mount some pretty easy score. But honestly, I think the easiest way to do this challenge is to use the quad crusher, angle yourself on some sort of incline or hill, and then boost, launching yourself into the air and do some spins and stuff. You're gonna get a lot of trick points very fast, and you can just keep doing that over and over and over again, especially in like a 50 versus 50 mode where you're not gonna have to worry about people shooting you. And this will be a super easy challenge to complete, and it probably won't take you very long either. visiting different named locations in a single match. The easiest way to complete this sucker is to just go to 4 locations that are really close in proximity. So like Junk Junction, Haunted Hills, Pleasant Park, and Leaky Lake are all pretty close. And once again, 50 versus 50 will make this challenge even easier. Then finally, stage 1, using a grappling hook. That's easy enough. All you have to do is find the grappling hook and you'll be able to complete this challenge. Then of course move on to the future stages. And there you guys have it. Those are all of the week 8 challenges here in season 6 of Fortnite and how to complete them in the easiest and fastest manners. If this video helped you guys out, be sure to give it a big old thumbs up, slap that like button, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you go ahead and subscribe with your channel notifications turned on. Until next time guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have an awesome rest of your day and we'll see you on the battle bus. Peace out.